This is Michael Lavers from the Washington Blade. I am standing on the waterfront here in Panama City, Panama. It's about 2:20 local time on Tuesday, September 26th. I arrived here from El Salvador this morning. It is my 7th day here in Latin America. And today, in about 45 minutes or so, I will be meeting with Ivan Chanis. He is a lawyer who is among the folks behind the growing same-sex marriage movement here in Panama. So we'll be sitting down with him to talk about how the issue is moving forward here in Panama. And then tomorrow morning I fly to Bogota, Colombia, where I will be spending 2 days interviewing several folks. I'll be posting updates about those interviews in the coming days on social media and WashingtonBlade.com. And then on Friday, I fly from Bogota, Colombia to Santiago de Chile, where I will be ending my trip. I will be there until October 4th, next Wednesday, and then I fly back to Washington on Wednesday night. So today is my 7th day in Latin America. I've been in El Salvador, as I said earlier, and Honduras last week. And a couple of things to note from the work that my colleague and I were doing in El Salvador earlier this week. We, as I said in the earlier video that I posted from San Salvador, we sat down with 2 transgender women from a town called San Luis Talpa, where 4 trans women were murdered in February, and it's just a really horrible situation for them in this particular town. It's very close to the airport. The gangs, pandillas, control the town, and so these trans women are unfortunately caught in the crossfire, literally and figuratively, and it's a very, very bad situation for them there. So we sat down with 2 of them on Saturday in San Salvador. Yesterday I sat down with Andrea Ayala. She is the executive director of ESBULES, a group in Spanish that's Espacio de Mujeres por la Diversidad. Space for women who support diversity is roughly how it translates into English. She's one of my longtime sources in El Salvador and really has a really good pulse on what's going on in the country. So we spent over an hour talking about a whole range of issues, including immigration and all of President Trump's rhetoric with regards to building the wall on the border of Mexico and the U.S., rescinding DACA, among other things. And one of the anecdotes that she shared with me is that there is a gay couple who is legally married in Bedford, Virginia, and they were deported back to El Salvador. I'm hoping to connect with this couple at some point, but she said to me that one of them was brought to the U.S. when he was 6 months old, and obviously he doesn't know anything else but the U.S. His life was there. He married his partner in Virginia. They have a child, and then they were deported back to El Salvador. She didn't say when this happened, but certainly she highlighted this case as an example of the very real consequences that somebody who is a DACA recipient could face if they are sent back to the country from which they came, especially when they left when they were very young. So that really underscored the concern that many people in El Salvador, whether they're advocates or just average folks, have with what's going on in Washington. The temporary protected status issue is another concern. I think Andrea told me that about 40,000 people from El Salvador have TPS, and that's also another thing that is not at all certain at this point with the new administration. So certainly a lot of concern in El Salvador and Honduras as well about the immigration issue. I haven't been on the ground here very long, so I can't really say for certain whether that's an issue here in Panama. At least with the backdrop behind me, the country is a lot more prosperous. There are poor areas in the city through which I drove coming down here. The Uber driver pointed that out to me as we were heading from my hotel to the National Assembly, where I was taking a few stock photos earlier. And she did talk about Donald Trump. I asked her about him, and basically her response was, "It gives me a headache." So anything, he gives me a headache. So that was kind of the gist of the conversation. She was a fairly young woman, I would say about perhaps perhaps in university or something, but certainly had some pretty strong and dismissive thoughts about President Trump and everything that's been going on. And she also talked about the horrible situation in Puerto Rico with the victims of Hurricane Maria, and that's been on the news throughout here in Latin America. It's been front page news on local newspapers and on television, that along with the situation in Mexico with the earthquake last week. And there's a real sense that not enough is being done, at least in the situation in Puerto Rico, to help the people who are in a really dire situation. And I certainly made that clear this morning when I posted something on Facebook with all of the stuff going on about the NFL and him calling out players and for not bowing, not participating properly in his words and others in the national anthem, when you have U.S. citizens in Puerto Rico who are in a very, very difficult situation. It seems as though that might be a little bit more important for somebody in the White House to focus on, as opposed to engaging in these tit for tats on Twitter and everything that he's been doing as of late. So, but at any rate, that's the latest from here in Panama City, Panama. And I have a story from Honduras scheduled to go live later this afternoon, so you'll have to look for that, and I have some other things in the works as well. So as I travel through Latin America, I slowly have an opportunity to post these things on the Washington Blade website. So as always, you can find updates on WashingtonBlade.com. I send out pictures and videos and other updates from my trip on my social media pages, MKLavers81, also on Facebook and Instagram as well. So hasta luego.